And away we go. It is the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com. Make sure you visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Get down to Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15% off your order. Galactic Fried Chicken is open Wednesday through Sunday, lunch and dinner. They've got awesome chicken tenders, chicken dunkers, which are my new favorite thing. Fried chicken, galactic sauce, French fries, coleslaw, fried pickles, the whole 9 yards. So make sure you get down and support our friends at Galactic Fried Chicken. And while you're at it, go to City Beat. They are voting on their best of Cincinnati right now. And make sure you vote for Galactic in all 4 categories. We want to see our friends at Galactic get a 4-category sweep. Best fried chicken, best chicken sandwich, best gluten-free, and best neighborhood restaurant in Northern Kentucky. So make that happen.
For your votes to count, you have to vote for 20 things. So make sure you are voting for 20 different things, 20 different categories.
Including
those 4.
Pardon the punctuation.
Sure.
For best sports coverage as well. That's 5. You just need 15 more.
15 more.
That's not that bad.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. This is your topic tonight.
Have I got a doozy for you tonight?
All right, let's do this.
All right, so there wasn't a whole lot going on today in the University of Cincinnati.
No, and we'll preview Memphis on Saturday.
Sure.
And get into that. If that was a Saturday game, we probably would do a little bit more of that today. We'll have tomorrow off. We'll be back on Saturday to take a look at the Bearcats in Memphis. Memphis knocking off Wichita State at home tonight. So we'll get into that Saturday. We needed something good in the college sports world.
Something juicy. Sink your teeth into. And Dan Murphy from ESPN dropped an article today, and the title of which is New California Bill Pushes for College Sports Revenue Sharing. And this is a little crazy.
I think it's outstanding.
It's apparently not the first time they've tried to pass such a bill. It's the second time now. It's in its second iteration. And California, being obviously a very progressive state, would not surprise me to see something like this start in California. But if it starts somewhere, good luck not getting it to catch on in other states.
Here's the great irony in this. The NCAA has been looking for they've been looking for federal legislation to help them in this NIL new world.
Wild West.
I can guarantee you this, Aaron. This is the opposite of what they were looking for. They were looking for, how about you help us find a way to bilk these donors for more money to pay for NIL with some restrictions applied.
Yeah, because they
were not looking for revenue sharing, Aaron.
No, not this. Especially when you're talking about after. So the example that they gave was if a school, say they made $6 million and allocated $500,000 of that to scholarships, $2.5 million, half, would have to go to the athletes. Yeah. And it would be equally distributed due to Title IX between the men's and women's programs. And it would also handcuff you to those programs. If your AD makes more than $500,000, you can't just get rid of any of those programs.
Right.
So you can't try and cut off your nose to spite your face. Yeah. So this is crazy. It would also provide insurance for injuries to all the student athletes. It would also guarantee scholarships for 6 years, or until the athlete finishes their degree, which I don't even know what that means. I don't know that allows them any more eligibility to play, but it at least guarantees those scholarships.
What it just means is you would still have your 5 years to play for. But if you're Van Wilder and it takes you 7 years to get your degree, the university is on the hook.
as long as you're a full-time student in good academic standing.
Yeah.
I
don't know that Bert Kreischer was always in good academic standing at Florida State, but
this is crazy though. This is not anything that I saw coming. I didn't know anything about the first time they tried to push this through, but seeing this pop up as one of the top stories on ESPN today, this would change everything, especially if you get if you are not a school in California, it gives California schools, as far as recruiting goes, a huge leg up.
And then what's going to happen with Ohio State and Alabama and Florida, Texas, all these other places where football are king? Well, they're going to look at, well, we can't let all our kids go to California.
Well, and think about this though: California versus Florida, taxes are very, very different. If Florida was to adopt this, but you would also have so much pushback from the universities saying we don't want this.
Right. So here's my thing. Especially as we get into this world where TV contracts are going to eclipse 50, 75, very soon $100 million per school per year. They're wasting the money, because what they can't have, Aaron, and we talked about this a lot during COVID, what they can't have is a surplus, okay? They cannot say we made $37 million last year that we didn't spend. I know a lot of people talk about, well, the books say that it's like baseball, right? They're playing a shell game with numbers. The books say that we broke even last year. Yeah, that's because you spent $40 million that you didn't have to spend. Why do they do that? Because of this. Because if they start pocketing $20, $30, $40 million a year, then everybody's going to say, well, look at your books.
Well, and this one of the bullets does say that they would, in the name of transparency, you would have to publicly share the information about your current compliance with Title IX law and information about the benefits.
Yeah. This is essentially the rate that pro sports work on. That ownership gets half, and the players get half. That is what the NCAA has fought against forever, ever.
Yeah, they've made
forever
billions of dollars on billions with a B off the backs of athletes. I mean, Ohio State's making $1 billion a year.
Yeah. So what would here's the honest question. What would it slow down? It would slow down the arms race. And what I mean by the arms race is every 5 years, you're replacing a building or a thing you built 5 years ago, 10 years ago, with a new thing. The thing you built 10 years ago that was brand new, state of the art, the best of the best.
The locker room, yeah.
The locker room, the practice facility, the nutrition center, the boxes, training center, the weight room, where recruits are hosted. That's what they're doing with all this money. They're just spending it on things that should last a lot longer than what they're lasting.
Because
why do they do that?
They have so much money.
Well, right.
That's part of it.
Well, the part of it that's important is they have to show that they spend that money. Because if they start putting that money in the bank, then the athletes are going to say, oh, well, you had $30 million last year that was left over that you didn't spend. We want some of that. And with the 9-0 ruling from the Supreme Court 18 months ago or whatever it was that kind of changed this whole landscape, the Supreme Court made it clear. Republican, Democrat, I know we don't talk politics here, but what they made very clear was what you've done for 100 years is over. It's out. It's done.
Yeah.
And we are going to support the rights of the athletes that are making you all of this money. And if something like this came to pass, I can't imagine how many schools would be done, would be out, would just be like, we can't, like, we're not.
Can't afford to do this.
Yeah. Now, the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, from the numbers that we've heard, there's going to be some conferences that it's not going to, like, okay, we'll do this, whatever.
Just
if
another
this becomes
day,
the
right.
trend. It's, yeah, we have to figure out a way to operate with less, but
trim the fat before this actually becomes a bill that we have to worry about. So you'd see some programs immediately cut.
Well, yeah, we're going, like, this is kind of the thing that nobody wants to talk about. What would be at risk here are the Olympic sports model,
right?
Colleges using the Olympic sports model as part of their umbrella.
Sure.
That would essentially die. You would have to keep.
It'd be a slow death because, I mean, we're only talking about one state right now, and so other states would have to roll out similar legislation.
Well, yeah, but like I said,
thereafter, but it wouldn't be far behind.
What happens when California does it and players are automatically like, okay, well, here's your $300,000 to come here, because
that it got capped at like 25, but still, whatever.
No, but I'm saying, like, when you're talking about the revenue split, and then you start talking about, okay, all this other shit is getting cut, so the bubble is getting smaller. So you have to have an equal number of women's sports scholarships to men's sports scholarships. Where, okay, well, we just do men's football and men's basketball, and we do women's basketball and maybe lacrosse and volleyball, whatever it takes to get the scholarship numbers equal, and then everything else is out.
Everything else has to go, right. Players would be eligible to receive up to $25,000 in annual payments at the end of their season.
Okay, go expand on that.
And any additional money would be held in a trust until they graduate.
Yeah. So it could be $300,000. You get $25,000 that year, and then when you graduate, you get all the rest.
Because it's in a trust. So depending on how that money was allocated, sure.
So if you're talking any of the Big Ten schools, any of the SEC schools, as they get to a point where they're going to get $100 million a year, $50 million of that is going to the athletes automatically off the top.
I don't know how that's necessarily going to get to $300,000 if you're talking about $25,000 per seat, up to $25,000.
No. You're missing the point of what that says. They instantly get $25,000, and everything else above $25,000 goes into a trust. So,
touche. Okay, yeah, you're right.
So if you're cutting the number of Olympic sports, which are just a drain financially on the university and the athletic department, and you're trimming it down to football and men's basketball and enough Title IX stuff on the women's side to match, and you have to split $50 million, that's a lot of millions of dollars.
That is a lot of millions of dollars.
So if you go to USC or UCLA, or I don't know if a private school, how that works. If you go to UCLA, you get your $25,000 a year guaranteed, plus whatever money you make in NIL. And when you graduate, there's like $500,000 waiting for you.
Now, none of this article says what happens if you transfer or if you...
No, you have to graduate. It says you have to graduate.
So that changes retention, though, as well. So
of course.
people have been talking about how to change retention at universities and how to build a program. My goodness, that would change retention. If you're talking about, well, I'm at USC and I got $2 million in the bank.
Right. All I got to do is graduate to get my $2 million.
So now NIL has to surpass what you already have in your trust.
Or NIL is on top of, because you got to remember.
No, I get that, but
what I'm saying is,
but to lure someone away.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. So you're at USC, you got $2 million in the bank, and you've got $1 million in NIL. Now somebody has to pay you to get you to leave.
To get you out. Yeah. Man. That would change everything.
It's fascinating. Do I think it'll pass? Probably not. But if it does,
is something similar down the pipeline? Because this has been the way that this has been everyone's problem, especially people who aren't really in the fandom of these universities. They want to see the people who are for the players want to see the players get paid properly, as the universities are making stacks of money on the players
and spending it recklessly just so they don't have $1 left in their bank account. That's the thing for me that I don't think enough people are paying attention to, is that they have to spend it all. Because if they don't, everybody starts looking at that bottom line and going, y'all pocketed $27 million last year.
How do budgets work, right? Once you aren't spending that money, you're not getting any more.
Right.
You don't get an increase in budget if you didn't spend 10 million of your 50 million. You're not getting an increase to 60 million, 70 million. Why? What do you need that for?
The increase is still coming because of the TV dollars and the renegotiation of contracts.
But if you're not spending it, it's going to be reallocated somewhere else on the university.
Right. Everybody's going to be looking and going, oh, you guys made and now the athletes
holding out their hand.
Athletes are looking and going, wait a minute. I didn't spend that $27 million last year that we made you. Where'd that $27 million go, son?
We made the CFP.
Oh, well, we redid the women's locker room.
We won a bowl game.
We redid the game day locker room. We redid the practice facility. We redid the weight room for $8 million when it's a project that could have been done for $2 million. Right? Like
the chambers, the anti
whatever. That stuff is really good for recovery and nutrition and all. Like I
was just naming expensive shit that you could spend money on.
Yeah.
Hyperbaric chambers. That's what
hyperbaric chambers. But those actually they have some benefit to the student athletes.
They're still expensive as shit.
It's going to be very interesting to see if stuff like this makes it through somewhere, because eventually it's going to make it through somewhere. And then if it happens somewhere, much like NIL, where NIL happens somewhere, and you got to remember, this is the important thing to remember. These football coaches, and now sometimes their assistants, are like the highest paid employees in the state, and they have power. And what they don't want is Lincoln Riley in California to have significantly more power in recruiting, because what happened in California hasn't happened yet in Florida or Texas or Ohio. And it will happen. If it happens somewhere, it'll happen everywhere. That's the nightcap. Good shit. That's a really good conversation. Good work, son. We'll see you on Saturday.
Thanks.
That's the nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya.